The fluorescent lights in the emergency department cast harsh shadows as I finish my 12th hour on shift. It's been another brutal day. 3 cardiac arrests, a major car accident, and countless minor emergencies that kept our trauma bays full. My scrubs are stained with dried blood and antiseptic, and my feet ache from the constant movement. But it's the thought of going home that makes my stomach twist with anxiety. I know exactly what I'll find when I unlock our apartment door. Emily, my girlfriend of 4 years, exactly where she was when I left this morning. Probably still curled up on our beige microfiber couch, scrolling mindlessly through TikTok on her phone, takeout containers from DoorDash scattered across our coffee table. The image makes my chest tighten with a familiar mix of frustration and disappointment. At 24, I'm one of the younger RNs in Portland Memorial's emergency department. The job pays well, about $80,000 a year with overtime, which should be enough for a comfortable life in Portland's suburbs. Our 2-bedroom apartment in Beaverton isn't luxury living, but at $1,500 a month, it's reasonable for the area. Yet somehow, we're always skating close to the edge financially. Between Emily's daily takeout habits, $30.40 per meal, her endless online shopping sprees, and my student loan payments, $500 monthly, my savings account barely breaks $1,000 these days. 4 years earlier, community college. I met Emily in the nursing program at Portland Community College when I was 20. The memory of that first day is still vivid. She was sitting alone in the back of our anatomy and physiology class, wearing a threadbare hoodie and looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. We were paired up for lab work, and I learned her story piece by piece over formaldehyde-scented dissections. Her background was worlds apart from my middle-class upbringing. While I chose community college as a smart financial decision, carefully plotting my path to a nursing degree, Emily was there under duress. Her father, a construction worker who barely made ends meet, had given her an ultimatum: either go to school or get out. They lived in a cramped 1,100 square foot house in East Portland's rougher side, where police sirens were a nightly lullaby. During that first year, our relationship evolved naturally. She started spending more time at my apartment, claiming the campus library was too noisy to study. Then a few clothes appeared in my dresser. Then a toothbrush. Before I really processed it, she had essentially moved in. Her parents barely noticed her absence. Her father worked 60-hour weeks on construction sites, and her mother spent most days in front of the TV, lost in soap operas and prescription pain pills. Present day, hospital break room. Birth to David, Lisa's voice cuts through my memories. She's holding out a cup of coffee, concern evident in her eyes. Lisa's been my mentor since I started at Portland Memorial 2 years ago. She's in her mid-30s, divorced, and has the kind of practical wisdom that comes from a decade in emergency medicine. Thanks, I mumble, accepting the coffee. It's hospital brew, bitter and strong enough to strip paint, but it's what keeps us going through 12-hour shifts. Rough day? She asks, though we both know she's not really asking about work. The dark circles under my eyes aren't just from the 3 cardiac arrests we worked today. Same as always, I reply, staring into the black coffee. Emily was still asleep when I left this morning. Probably hasn't moved from the couch all day, except to order food. Rachel, another nurse on our team, joins us in the break room. She's closer to my age, single, and constantly trying to get me to join the hospital's hiking group. You know, she starts carefully. My sister went through something similar with her ex. Sometimes helping someone isn't really helping them. They're both aware of my situation. It's hard to hide things from people you trust with life and death decisions every day. They've watched my growing frustration, offered advice, and lately started suggesting that maybe it's time to make a change. On the drive home, As I navigate my Honda Civic through Portland's evening traffic, I can't help comparing Emily to my coworkers. Today at lunch, Rachel was excited about a photography class she's taking. Lisa mentioned volunteering at a local animal shelter. Even our newest nurse, fresh out of school, is already talking about going back for her master's degree. Meanwhile, Emily spends 7 hours a day scrolling through social media, living vicariously through TikTok and Instagram influencers. Her only real connection to the outside world is through likes and comments. She has a couple of friends from high school who occasionally message her, girls who never left our hometown, who spend their days much like Emily does, drifting through life without direction. The contrast between my work life and home life has become increasingly stark. At the hospital, I'm surrounded by people who are constantly growing, learning, facing challenges. We see life and death every day, deal with the worst moments of people's lives, and somehow keep going. It gives you a perspective on what really matters. Our relationship isn't technically bad. We don't have screaming matches or throw things. We still have an active sex life, and Emily can be incredibly affectionate. But there's this growing emptiness, a sense that we're not building anything together. She seems content to drift through life, while I feel like I'm drowning in the weight of supporting us both. The real problem, the thing that keeps me awake at night, is what happens if I end it. Emily has no job, no savings, no real support system. Her parents haven't spoken to her since she dropped out of nursing school. She's completely dependent on me, and the thought of making her homeless makes me sick to my stomach. But continuing like this, I'm not sure how much longer I can do it. As I pull into our apartment complex, I notice the lights are still off in our unit. She probably hasn't even opened the curtains today. Taking a deep breath, I gather my scrubs bag and hospital badge, trying to prepare myself for another evening of forced smiles and shallow conversations about TikTok videos. Sometimes I wonder if she realizes how close I am to walking away. From her perspective, this probably seems sudden, just another rough patch in an otherwise okay relationship. But for me, I could walk away tomorrow and never look back. The only thing stopping me is the guilt of what happens to her afterward. The growing distance. 1 week later, the glass doors of the emergency department slide open, releasing me into another rain-soaked Portland evening. My phone shows 3 missed calls from Emily, probably about dinner, though I've already told her I'd be working late. 2 of our regular patients came in today, a homeless man with infected foot ulcers and an elderly woman with chronic heart failure. Treating them, seeing their genuine gratitude despite their circumstances, made Emily's situation feel even more frustrating. I've tried talking to her about finding direction in life since January. 3 distinct conversations come to mind, each one playing out like a scripted performance. The first time, I gently suggested she might enjoy finding a hobby, something to get her out of the apartment. She laughed it off, showing me a funny TikTok video instead. The second attempt was more direct. During a rare moment when she wasn't on her phone, I told her plainly that she was wasting away online, that she needed either a job or to return to school. She nodded, made promises, even spent 2 days looking at job listings before reverting to her usual routine. The third time, just last month, I offered to pay for her classes if she wanted to try college again. Not necessarily nursing, any program she might enjoy. She changed the subject, complained about being tired, and ordered $50 worth of Thai food that she barely touched. Evening at home. Tonight, I find her actually cooking when I get home, a rare occurrence that would have once filled me with hope. She's making pasta, something simple from a box, but it's more effort than she's shown in weeks. Her face lights up when she sees me, and for a moment, I'm reminded of the girl I met in that anatomy class 4 years ago. I thought you might be hungry after your shift, she says, stirring the pasta with obvious pride. I know you probably had a rough day, dealing with all those emergencies and everything. The thing is, Emily can be incredibly sweet. She asks about my day, tries to make me laugh when I'm stressed, shows physical affection freely. It makes the guilt worse, knowing that these gestures don't move me anymore. Where I once saw endearing attention, I now see desperate dependence. How was your day? I ask, though I already know the answer. The living room shows the familiar signs. Phone charging cable stretched to the couch, empty coffee cups, Netflix paused on some reality show. Oh, just relaxing, she says, as if unemployment is a chosen lifestyle. I found this really interesting series about. I tune out as she describes another show. Another day spent in digital isolation. Meanwhile, my mind drifts to the schedule board at work, where I marked myself for extra shifts next week. More hours means more distance from this suffocating routine. More time with people who understand the value of purpose. My coworkers keep telling me I look tired, and they're right. Not from the work. That kind of tired feels earned, productive. This is a different kind of exhaustion, the kind that comes from carrying someone else's life alongside your own. Every time I walk through these apartment doors, I feel my energy draining, replaced by a heavy resignation. I should feel grateful that she's cooking tonight, that she's making an effort. Instead, I find myself wondering if this is another temporary change, like the time she cleaned the apartment for 3 days straight, or when she claimed she was going to start a YouTube channel. Each burst of motivation fizzles out as quickly as it appears, leaving us back where we started. Tonight, watching her serve pasta with such hopeful eyes, I realize something has to change. The question isn't if anymore, but when and how. The guilt of this realization sits like lead in my stomach, making even this simple meal hard to swallow. The breaking point, late evening. It's past 11 when I finally gather the courage to have the conversation I've been rehearsing in my head throughout my shifts at Portland Memorial. I'm still in my scrubs, the faint antiseptic smell of the hospital clinging to the fabric as I stand in our bedroom doorway. Emily is on the bed, bouncing slightly on her knees, scrolling through her phone with that familiar vacant expression. We need to talk, I say, my voice steadier than I expected. The words feel heavy in the air-conditioned silence of our bedroom. At first, she doesn't sense the gravity of the moment. She keeps smiling, still bouncing slightly on the bed, probably thinking this is about weekend plans or bills. The same disconnection from reality that's brought us to this point. Emily, I continue, still standing in the doorway. Something isn't right anymore. I've been patient, waiting for you to find direction. A job, school, even just a hobby. But watching you waste day after day doing nothing. I pause, searching for the right words. It's wearing me down. I watch her expression change as the weight of my words finally registers. The smile fades. The bouncing stops. Her phone slides forgotten onto the bedspread. In the harsh overhead light, I can see every micro-expression cross her face. Confusion, fear, dawning comprehension. I've tried to help you grow. I continue, the words coming easier now. I've suggested jobs, offered to pay for classes, tried to get you interested in anything beyond social media. But you don't seem to care about your own development. You have no goals, no aspirations. Do you understand how frustrating that is to watch? To my surprise, she's more attentive than she's been in months. The usual glazed look from too much screen time is gone, replaced by focused panic. She starts listing places she could apply. The mall, the grocery store, local cafes. She mentions online courses she's seen ads for, promises to let me supervise her job applications. Her voice has an eager, desperate edge I've never heard before. I could start looking tomorrow, she says quickly, words tumbling out. There's that coffee shop down the street, and I saw Target is hiring. I could take photography classes. I've been watching lots of tutorials on YouTube. She thinks this is just another wake-up call. Another chance to make promises she won't keep. That makes what I have to say next even harder. I take a deep breath, steeling myself. I don't love you the same way anymore, I say quietly, the words falling into the sudden silence. Actually, I don't feel anything. I'm tired, Emily. I want someone who wants more from life than just existing. The change is instant. Her face crumples, tears welling up immediately. Why didn't you tell me sooner? She chokes out, her voice rising with panic. I did, I reply, keeping my voice firm but gentle. Every time I asked you to cook, to go out, to try something new. Every time I offered to pay for your classes, every suggestion, every attempt to help you grow, those were all me telling you. But I didn't know you were falling out of love with me. She's crying harder now, mascara starting to run. From my perspective, everything seemed fine. You never said you were unhappy. She breaks down completely then, confessing through tears that nothing motivates her, that she has no interest in anything except being with me. You're all I look forward to, she sobs. You're the only thing that makes me happy. When I suggest that maybe her lifestyle would be better suited to someone else, she becomes hysterical. Through tears and gasping breaths, she promises to change, to go anywhere I want, to start courses in August. I have nothing else, she pleads. Please don't stop loving me. The depth of her breakdown is unsettling. We agree to pause the conversation until she calms down. An hour later, she's begging for 2 months to prove herself, promising change after change. Despite my doubts, I agree to give her a month to work on our relationship, partly because I know she needs time to get on her feet, and partly because I want to avoid a complete mental breakdown while we're still living together. The aftermath, 3:00. I'm lying on our living room couch, staring at the ceiling fan spinning lazily in the darkness. The leather sofa that once seemed like such a luxury purchase now feels like a symbol of our mismatched priorities. Emily insisted on it, despite our tight budget, claiming it would make the apartment feel more grown up. Now it's just another reminder of how we've been living beyond our means. The sound of our bedroom door creaking open breaks the silence. Emily's footsteps are hesitant as she pads across the hardwood floor. I can make out her silhouette in the dim light filtering through the blinds. She's wrapped herself in the fleece blanket her grandmother gave her before passing away, the last real connection to her family. Can we talk more? Her voice is small, rough from crying. When I tell her I'm exhausted, she doesn't leave. Instead, she sinks down to the floor beside the couch, pulling the blanket tighter around herself. The faint smell of her shampoo, vanilla, and something floral mingles with the lingering hospital antiseptic on my scrubs. I'm sorry, she whispers into the darkness. I'm so sorry. Each apology comes with a slight tremor in her voice. When I ask her to stop, she falls silent, but I can hear her muffled sobs beneath the blanket. The digital clock on our cable box glows 3:27 a.m. In less than 4 hours. I need to be back at Portland Memorial for another 12-hour shift. The following days, the hospital becomes my sanctuary. Between the constant flow of patients and the steady rhythm of rounds, I can almost forget the situation waiting at home. Lisa notices my increased coffee intake, the way I volunteer for extra procedures, anything to stay busy. You look like hell, she comments during our break, sliding a protein bar across the nurse's station. When's the last time you actually slept? The truth is, I'm barely sleeping at all. Emily has taken to camping out in the living room every night, either on the floor near the couch or in the armchair, watching me with red-rimmed eyes. She's trying to respect my space while simultaneously refusing to give me any. The irony would be funny if it weren't so exhausting. During the day, she oscillates between frantic activity and complete withdrawal. One morning, I'll come home to find her filling out job applications online, researching photography classes, and making lists of goals. The next day, she's back on the couch, scrolling through her phone with puffy eyes and unwashed hair. The hardest part is watching her try so desperately now, when simple effort months ago might have changed everything. She started cooking again. Basic meals like spaghetti and stir-fry. But the sight of her in the kitchen just reminds me of all the times I came home to empty takeout containers and excuses. Rachel, ever practical, pulls me aside after a particularly rough trauma case. "You know," she says, organizing supplies with efficient movements. "My sister stayed 3 months too long in a similar situation. All it did was make the eventual break harder on both of them." She's right, and I know it. But every time I think about ending things completely, I remember Emily's words. I have nothing else. The weight of being someone's entire world is suffocating, but the responsibility feels impossible to shake. I've given her a month to show change, but we both know it's really about giving her time to figure out her next steps. 2 months until she needs to be on her feet. 1 month to accept that our relationship is over. The timeline feels both too long and not long enough. For now, I sleep on the couch, work extra shifts, and try to navigate this liminal space we've created. No longer together, not quite separate. It's one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, but beneath the guilt and exhaustion, there's a sense of relief. The truth is finally out, even if the aftermath is messier than I imagined. 1 week later, the attempted change. The manic energy radiating from Emily is almost visible in our apartment's stale air. Over the past week, she's thrown herself into different activities with a desperation that's both impressive and concerning. Our spare room has become a graveyard of half-started projects. Yoga mat still in its wrapper. Watercolor supplies untouched after one attempt. 3 different self-help books with bookmarks stuck in the first chapter. But photography, surprisingly, has stuck. After selling some of her accumulated clothes on Depop, designer pieces she'd bought during late-night shopping sprees, she managed to scrape together enough for a Canon 250D camera. I have to admit, she's done her research. I overheard her on the phone with the camera store, asking detailed technical questions she'd clearly learned from YouTube tutorials. "Do you want to go downtown?" she asks hopefully each evening when I return from my shifts. The golden hour lighting would be perfect for practice shots. Her enthusiasm is overwhelming. Constant questions about my mood, my thoughts, my plans. Every interaction feels charged with desperate energy. At Portland Memorial. "Classic love bombing," Lisa says during our lunch break, picking at a wilted cafeteria salad. "She's overcompensating because she's terrified of losing you." Rachel nods in agreement, both of them watching me with concerned expressions honed by years of assessing patients in crisis. "You look exhausted," Rachel adds. "Are you still sleeping on the couch?" I am, though sleeping might be generous. Emily's taken to camping out in the living room every night, either on the floor beside the couch or curled in the armchair. When I point out that this defeats the purpose of giving each other space, she just whispers, "I can't be alone right now." The public display. During our photography outings, her need for physical contact has become almost suffocating. She constantly reaches for my hand, leans against me, tries to kiss me in public. Behavior that would have been endearing months ago, but now feels like performance art. Even when I mention early shifts the next day, She begs to stay out longer, as if each extra minute might somehow save us. The camera becomes both a tool and a shield. Behind it, she can pretend we're just another couple enjoying the Portland evening. Through the viewfinder, she can frame our relationship the way she wants it to be, rather than what it's become. But between shots, I catch her watching me, analyzing every micro expression, desperately searching for any sign that my feelings might be changing back. The warning signs. She's going to crash, Lisa warns me during a quiet moment in the This level of intensity isn't sustainable. She's seen it before, both in patients and in her own past relationships. The manic phase of trying to fix everything, followed by the inevitable collapse when reality sets in. My coworkers have offered their spare rooms if I need to escape, but that feels like admitting defeat. Besides, I'm technically still in this relationship, even if we both know it's on borrowed time. The lease ends in October, just a few months away. It feels both too close and impossibly far. I find myself spending more time at the hospital, picking up extra shifts in the The controlled chaos of emergency medicine is oddly comforting compared to the emotional minefield at home. Here, at least, I know my role, understand the problems, can see clear solutions. The inevitable crash. It happens during our second week, just as my coworkers predicted. We're downtown, Emily testing her new camera settings, when she suddenly turns to me. "You're not even trying," she says, her voice tight with accusation. "I'm doing everything I can, but you're just going through the motions." She's not entirely wrong. I've been maintaining a careful distance, physically and emotionally. Every smile feels forced, every conversation measured. I'm acting the part of supportive partner while already knowing the ending of this story. The drive home is silent. Emily stares out the window, her new camera forgotten in her lap, while I navigate through Portland's evening traffic. The weight of unspoken words fills the car, heavier than the summer humidity seeping through the air conditioning. The breaking point. Late evening. The confrontation comes to a head when I return home late from drinks with my coworkers. The apartment is dark except for the street light filtering through our living room window, casting long shadows across the floor. Emily sits in the darkness, perfectly still, watching me enter. The sight sends a chill down my spine. She's never still, always fidgeting with her phone or bouncing with nervous energy. "Were those your work friends?" Her voice is unnaturally calm. When I confirm they were, her next question comes immediately. "Have your feelings changed at all?" The question catches me off guard, though I should have expected it. We're approaching the 1-month deadline we discussed. I try to be diplomatic. "I appreciate your efforts lately, everything you're trying to do." "That's not what I asked." She cuts me off. Her voice trembles slightly. "Do you love me again?" The silence stretches between us, heavy with unspoken truths. Finally, I admit, I'm still unsure about our future together. The calm facade crumbles instantly. Tears start flowing as she launches into an emotional outburst that's been building for weeks. "I've done everything," she cries, her voice rising with each word. "I'm trying so hard. The photography, the job applications, everything. What else do you want from me?" The total breakdown. What follows is the most intense emotional display I've ever witnessed from her. Through tears and increasingly hysterical sobs, she pours out everything: how much she loves me, how betrayed she feels, how she can't imagine life without me. "There will be nothing left," she cries. "No one, no place, no future." Her words echo off the apartment walls. "If you leave, I have no reason to live. I'll have nothing, nothing." The raw desperation in her voice makes me physically step back. This is beyond manipulation or typical relationship drama. This is someone facing the complete collapse of their world. I stand frozen, watching her break down in a way that makes our previous confrontations seem mild in comparison. Her mascara runs in black streaks down her face. Her breathing comes in gasping sobs, and her entire body shakes with the force of her emotions. The aftermath. She eventually locks herself in our bedroom. The sound of her crying continues, muffled but still audible through the door. I sink onto the couch, emotionally drained, knowing what needs to happen but dreading the execution. For the next few days, communication is minimal. When she finally emerges, her demeanor has shifted completely. She's quiet, apologetic, almost resigned. "I'm sorry for how I acted," she says softly. "I didn't mean to scare you." The final decision. It takes several days of careful consideration before I make my final move. When I do, I keep my voice gentle but firm. It's over. No more chances, no more tries. I offer her 2 additional months to find work and get on her feet. But after that, we need to go our separate ways. The tears come again, but they're different this time. Quiet, defeated. She nods, accepting the inevitable in a way she couldn't before. Within a week, she finds a part-time job at a local supermarket. Our apartment falls into an uneasy routine. When she's not at work, she stays in her room. I keep to the couch, and we barely speak. Despite the guilt that gnaws at me, I feel an overwhelming sense of freedom. I start going out more with my coworkers, rediscovering parts of myself that had been buried under the weight of our codependent relationship. The relief is almost palpable, until life throws an unexpected curveball. The unexpected turn. 2 weeks later, the pneumonia hits me like a freight train. One day, I'm fine, working my usual shifts in the ER. And the next, I'm struggling to breathe, my lungs feeling like they're filled with concrete. The irony of a healthcare worker being laid low by illness isn't lost on me. I end up having to take 2 weeks off work, the first significant time off I've had since starting at Portland Memorial. For days, I'm confined to the couch, alternating between fitful sleep and coughing fits that leave me gasping. My temperature hovers around 101 degrees Fahrenheit, and even the simple act of walking to the bathroom leaves me exhausted. The inhaler becomes my constant companion, though it barely seems to help. Emily, despite our situation, steps up in a way I never expected. She uses her employee discount at the supermarket to buy groceries, refusing to use my credit card when I offer it. "I'm working now," she says simply. "I can handle this." She starts cooking actual meals. Nothing fancy, but real food instead of takeout or snacks. The quiet moments. During the first few days, she keeps her distance, just quietly checking if I need anything. But as the days progress, something shifts. She starts sitting with me while I'm awake, sharing stories about her new job, difficult customers, friendly regulars, the complexities of learning the register system. Her voice is different when she talks about work, more animated, more confident. She's proud of mastering the coffee counter, of remembering regular customers' orders, of being trusted to close the store. These aren't world-changing achievements, but they're her first steps toward independence. The late-night conversations. During one particularly bad night, when the coughing won't let me sleep, she stays up with me. We watch old sitcoms on TV, and gradually the conversation turns to deeper topics. Without the pressure of trying to save our relationship, we talk more honestly than we have in years. "I was scared of failing," she admits quietly during a commercial break. "Watching you succeed, seeing how naturally everything came to you. It was easier to just not try." She pauses, then adds, "I know that sounds pathetic now." "It wasn't natural," I reply between coughs. "Those first months in the were terrifying. I just didn't have the luxury of giving up." The slow recovery. As I start to recover, our interactions find a new rhythm. The desperate tension that characterized our last months together is gone, replaced by something closer to our early friendship. We talk about her photography. She's still practicing, though now it's for herself rather than to please me. She shows me pictures she's taken during her breaks at work, and they're actually not bad. The barrier between us remains, something created during that final argument that will never fully heal. But it's different now, less like a wall, and more like a clear understanding of where we stand. October, and the end of our lease looms ahead, but it no longer feels like a countdown to disaster. The new normal. Even after I return to work, our new dynamic continues. She spends more time in the living room when I'm home, sharing stories about her day or asking about mine. Sometimes we catch ourselves laughing at shared jokes, only to remember the complexity of our situation. It's bittersweet, this new friendship growing from the ashes of our relationship. The future is still uncertain. I'll move out when the lease ends, start fresh somewhere else. Emily will continue at her retail job, hopefully building on this first step toward independence. We're not a dramatic success story or a cautionary tale, just two people who needed to lose what we had to find who we could be. Looking back now, the pneumonia was an unexpected catalyst for change. In my weakest physical state, we somehow found our strongest communication. Sometimes it takes completely breaking down for things to finally start working as they should.